What does innovation look like when it's embedded into the day-to-day employee experience? This is a question I wanted to explore in today's episode, so I hit the show floor at Cisco Live and I came across Thomas Rowley, Chief Technologist for Networking and Connectivity at a company called Softcat. Now, they are one of the UK's leading IT infrastructure providers, and Softcat has reimagined its own office environments by leveraging Cisco technologies. From Meraki sensors to collaboration tools, they've improved everything from air quality to user experience and even operational efficiency. So in our conversation today, Thomas is going to share how the company's magnet, not mandate approach to office design is reshaping hybrid work. And we'll also discuss why real-time data and sustainability actually go hand in hand, and how Cisco's unified ecosystem is helping them build an innovation model that scales across regions. But enough from me. It's time to get today's guest on. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Thomas Rowley. I'm the Chief Technologist for Networking and Connectivity at Softcat. So I form part of our Office of the CTO internally. And the Office of the CTO is made up of a small amount of individuals, each of us aligned to technology towers within Softcat. So those technology towers they fall into different technology areas, being workspace, data and AI, cybersecurity, networking and connectivity, and hybrid platforms. Each of those areas has an equivalent to myself aligned to those areas, and we are accountable and responsible for that portfolio, making sure that portfolio is up to date, making sure the messaging that we get from vendors is translated down into our tech services and sales, and also really ultimately to form our go-to-market message, and sometimes work with some of our larger customers. The other part of that, which sometimes is a little bit of crystal balling, is looking into the future and seeing where technology is changing, how that meets some of our customers' requirements and can start to help them innovate really in the future.
And it is an exciting space to be in. And before we started recording today, obviously we're both from the UK. Mm-hmm. You're in Silicon Valley last week, but what brings you to Cisco Live in San Diego? Is there a story there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Softcat at the moment as an organization, we're about a 3.5 billion organization. We've had some absolutely fantastic growth over the past 31 years that we've been around. All that growth up to this point has been organic until we hit about 3 months ago where we actually made our first ever acquisition of an organization called Oakland focused on AI. We're also at a point now where we're looking to start to really put our foot on the gas and grow internationally. At the moment, we sit at about 10 offices across the UK and we're looking to expand that out into the US relatively aggressively and also across EMEA. So as part of that, why am I here? One of those reasons is to start to form some really strong relationships, both across Cisco and also the ecosystem of vendors that surround them, how they might be able to support us in starting to expand our organization, our business, and start to service our customers on the international stage. We already do service customers at an international level, but mainly those who are headquartered out of the UK. I think the change that we're going to see now is starting to service US customers, global customers, EMEA customers, but from their region, from where they are based and headquartered internationally. The second bit to that really is getting the latest and greatest updates. Cisco Live is an awesome event where, one, in the US, Cisco do tend to tell you about the bigger stuff that they're releasing, which generally the inner geek inside me gets very excited about. But also at the same time, like I said, it's that ecosystem of partners that surround Cisco. Because when we look at ourselves as a value-added reseller, we're there to provide end-to-end solutions. It's not to provide just single point technologies. It's about everything that surrounds that and how services can start to enable that technology and enable organizations to see the ROI that they're trying to at the start of it.
And I'd love to take a peek behind the curtain, Softcat. I'm curious, what specific networking or infrastructure challenges were you facing at your London HQ that ultimately would lead to the adoption of Cisco technologies? Is there a story there?
Yeah, absolutely. So worth noting, our headquarters are actually in Marlow. London is one of our branch offices. So we have been adding new offices and new locations. A good example of that is our Newcastle office. But specifically in London, we were just getting to a point where the growth of our headcount was exceeding the capacity of our previous London office. So we needed to look at a new location. At the same time, that provided us with an absolutely fantastic opportunity to showcase what the art of the possible is with networking, with connectivity, with user experience, with unified comms and what that looks like. One of our internal IT team actually had a brilliant slogan, which I love using, and I quote, "The goal of that new office was to make the office a magnet rather than a mandate." And we live in this world of hybrid work now. Yeah. So you have to provide a better user experience for people to be motivated to come in. If they're getting a better experience at home, you've got another challenge there in front of you. So it was an interesting story, actually. We started by looking at the existing offices that we had, gaining feedback from both our internal IT team, but also our users on what that all looks like. Luckily, both of those bits of feedback married up really nicely. One of the main challenges was our meeting rooms, our video conferencing suites. The feedback was poor on that. We had a desire to go Microsoft Teams native across the entire environment. We had ClickShare, which if you've ever used, was just generally quite painful to get going. You had anyone who came in with a Mac and it just didn't work for them. And like I said, the frustrations that were felt by our users absolutely matched the frustrations that our IT team internally felt from an operational perspective. So going from that, we then looked at, again, with an opportunity of having a blank canvas, we started our market assessment. That initially started with looking at the UC part of our environment. And we were looking at Cisco, we were looking at Poly, we were looking at Logitech. We were mainly assessing them based on the requirements that we had, the roadmap of where that technology was going with that vendor, and the capabilities that were there today. When we look at the UC bit specifically, the WebEx platform, as described by Ian, which is one of our internal infrastructure managers, was just another level. When you look at the integrations that it had with our existing technology, that matched through to the ROI that we were really looking to see, plus a ton more value on top of it. So integrations with things like Thousand Eyes that we've already deployed across our whole environment, Cisco Spaces that we were looking to really implement and in some anger into that new office as well, and also the Microsoft Teams compatibility. It felt like Cisco had a stronger relationship with Microsoft compared to those other vendors, and we've got a real heavy investment into Microsoft. So that was super important. Like anything though with the UC piece, the wireless network that supports it and the wired network that supports it was also critical to that being a success. And again, coming back to that piece around, we want to make it a magnet, not a mandate. On the wireless piece, we actually used our own internal wireless network assessment. So we run that for customers. We'll do a physical survey across the whole of the new office building, what it looked like. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. It's like a constant ring around an atrium. So you can actually walk, and if you want to do laps, you can do laps around the office, get your step count in. But yeah, historically, actually, prior to that, in other offices, we just guessed where to put access points. And what this meant was that we could really be specific about, one, where we put access points, the model of access points we put in certain areas, not only to assure coverage, but also to enable other wireless technologies that provided value beyond just connectivity. So that was things like Cisco Spaces. The APs that we actually put into those offices were, in the London office, was Wi-Fi 6E APs. We've got other office refreshes coming up. They are going to be defaulted down onto Wi-Fi 7. And, you know, as well as kind of being positive about all of this, there were also some considerations and there were some concerns making some of this move from our old world to our new world. One of those was we had a Cisco wireless LAN controller previously, and that was perceived as a risk because the new wireless network we put in was actually Meraki. The confidence that we actually got back from that was focused around, if we did have any issues, we can just roll those APs straight back to WLC mode. So it started to negate that, and there's a benefit there of having common hardware, which is a big message that Cisco are taking out at the moment across, whether it's you're running it as a cloud-based solution like Meraki, or you're running it on-premise with something like Cisco DNA, for example. So Cisco Spaces, let's talk a little bit about Cisco Spaces. Location services is interesting, and we had to do a slightly different wireless assessment to do that. You can do wireless assessments based on coverage. You can also do them based on location services. Typically, you have to put more APs into an environment, and you have to put them in places you wouldn't typically put them because you need to triangulate where people are and what that looks like. We tightly integrated the Cisco Spaces piece into our meeting rooms, but to a degree where we've got actually a massive screen at the front of that office where you walk in, and it's got the complete blueprint of the office, where all of the meeting rooms are, what it looks like, and it allows not only our people, but also our customers and our guests that are coming in to identify anything from where a meeting room is to how do I get to the toilet to how can I go and get a coffee or where should I go and have my lunch. And I think that itself is fascinating. One, from our people just getting their hands on the tech that they're speaking to their customers about and getting that real world experience, but also starting to get to a point when we bring customers in, they're seeing that technology that we're talking to them about in real life, and we're there using it in real life in front of them and seeing the benefits of it. So that itself was quite interesting. As a test, when we first made this change, we do like to challenge ourselves, I've got to admit. So what we did was actually put the new kit, including the whole WebEx solution, the wireless solution, the switching solution. The first place we put that was the place that we knew if there was a problem, we'd get the most complaints. Can you guess where that was? No. That was the boardroom.
Really? Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah, I should have guessed. The amount of time I get flashbacks from my previous IT career being called into the boardroom. And those meeting rooms near the boardroom where, I don't know, the projector's not working, the HDMI cable's missing,
100%.
The Mac doesn't work when there's 50 people sat around the table.
And this is it. And these were some of the things that actually, when we were looking at the Cisco solution and the platform, really, and we can talk a little bit more about IoT and sensors and such like that coming in. But sometimes it's just the really simple things that add a ton of value. I talked to you earlier about like ClickShare. Getting into a meeting room and you're doing a presentation, you want a seamless experience just to get the stuff on the screen. And I still pull my hair out if I go into a meeting room and there isn't a wired connection. I already can sense I'm going to have issues with trying to get my presentation on the screen. So one of the simple things that we had as part of that Cisco solution was USB-C connectivity. It just works. And that's what you want. You want the confidence to be able to go into somewhere and it just works, rather than wasting 10 minutes of a meeting, also losing credibility, I think, at the same time, to actually get the meeting moving and get things going. So yeah, small things, big differences. User experience for us was absolutely at the heart of everything we did there.
Yeah, and I think we often forget, I think our homes, we have that much technology in there now, and consumer tech is sold to us that, hey, it just works.
Yes.
And then you walk into an office in some locations, it almost feels like going back in time, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has to be, like we were saying earlier, it has to be better than home. Yeah. If it's not better than home, why would I go in the first place? And even office environments themselves, we've noticed that with some of the new offices, the layout of those offices is drastically changing. There is a much larger focus on collaboration. It not being somewhere where there's just rows of desks that someone comes and sits down and does their work, because they can achieve that at home. Yeah. We still have spaces for that to happen, but really what we want is to facilitate a space for people to really effectively collaborate. And that can be anything from some comfy chairs to go and sit down and have a coffee and a chat, through to little meeting booths, through to massive meeting rooms for people to get in team meetings. Another great example of that, in specifically that office, is we put in quite a large atrium kind of space where I think we can sit up to about 150 or 200 people, and there's a stage and everything like that, again, so we can just bring everyone in and have a group communication, but in a really nice environment at the same time.
And a moment ago you mentioned Meraki, and before you joined me on the podcast, I was doing a little research and I was reading how you have Meraki sensors and access points that ultimately help you address environmental concerns like CO2 levels and even workplace density. Tell me more about that.
100%. So sustainability in the broad sense, when we look at networking specifically, that is crawling up the prioritization of so many organizations. In networks in general, we still live in this hardware-based world. I don't know how we're going to move away from that in the short term. So there is a big focus on that. Again, as part of the new office, it was opportunity. It was what can we use as state of the art to completely change how we do some things. So if I give you an example, in our previous London office, we had some power monitoring, but that power monitoring was pretty much limited to that office as a total when it looks at power and lighting. Now what we've done with the new solution, leveraging some sensors, which I'll go into a little bit more detail on, the Cisco and the Meraki solution actually enable us to monitor even things down to the granular level of what's the power usage of the video conferencing bar in each meeting room. What's the touchpad power usage? Microphones, what's the amps that they're using? And then the sensors that themselves, so all that feeds into the Meraki dashboard, which is great for centralized view, but every single meeting has these little MT40 power sensors. That's what gives us all that power information. Some of the meeting rooms, we've also put in some of the MT15s, so that starts to give us things like air quality, temperature, humidity. If we wanted it, vape detection is also a capability on there. And then in our comms cabinets, cameras, water leak detection technology, all starting to go into there. And speaking to our internal IT team, they were amazed at how easy it was to set up. And I think this puts a lot of people off about IoT. Oh my gosh, this is a new world. This is something new I'm going to have to learn, how to implement it, how to run it, how to monitor it. And in their words, it was as simple as you put the batteries in or you just plug it in and it works. Yeah. And it's that simple. And what that really gave us the ability to do is start to look at, that energy usage rather than per office, per meeting room. And for our sustainability goals, which we really push ourselves on, being transparent, it really helps us monitor how close are we getting to that. The more analytics we get out of that environment, I think in the future we'll start to do more stuff with that. Today, if we look at a room and the CO2 is going too high, for example, in that room, we can pump more air into that room. We don't do that in an automated way today. Yeah. That would be retrospectively looking at the data and going, do you know what? We need to adjust the settings on the system and go down that route. However, in the future, I'd love to think we can get to a point where we don't need a human to even look at that data. We can just do that in some kind of automated fashion.
And I'd love to ask you as well what the one Cisco approach means to you from a strategic partnership perspective, and also how did it inspire the creation of your own innovation demo hub? Because I know there's a big story there, and innovation is an area that a lot of businesses struggle in right now. So tell me more about that.
I mean, when we talk about innovation hubs, so we're in the process now of looking to create essentially our own executive briefing center. You look at how I was talking before about having the technology in the office. We kind of do it by osmosis at the moment. If someone comes into a meeting, they're interested, like flies to blue light in some ways. They want to touch it. They want to see how it works, see how we've implemented it, ask us about the challenges that we've had. Now, I think the thing is with executive briefing centers, usually they are very specific to a vendor. The vendor runs them. It's about the vendor's technology. Softcat works with over 3,000 vendors. And I'd argue that most of the solutions that we see implemented across industry, they aren't just single vendor. We do see this world of platform consolidation taking place. Platform consolidation, yes, you will be narrowing the amount of vendors that you work with, but really that's about having a super tightly integrated ecosystem of vendors that are working together as a unified platform. So really this idea kind of was born of, one, we want to bring our customers in to give them the experience of getting hands-on with tech. But two, where does the value shift come from Softcat? The value shift in my mind comes from the fact that we can come into an EBC and we can talk about 3 or 4 vendors, how they plug together, how that might meet the business challenges, the outcomes, the use cases that they're trying to attach, which I think will bring us a differentiator into that market, and it will support us working with some of those much larger organizations that we're starting to really kind of break into.
And I was also reading you are a Cisco Gold provider. So I'm curious, how are you leveraging that status, or as we're in the US, maybe status, to expand your offerings and support clients navigating digital transformation? What does this Cisco Gold provider status mean to you?
We are and have had a super strong relationship with Cisco for many years. They're one of our longest standing and highest revenue vendors that we work with. As a result of that, it also means that the resource that we've invested in internally is next to none. So if I look at Cisco in my world of networking connectivity, we have the capability to assess it, design it, sell it, implement it, support it, manage it, operate it continuously. So it really is looking as a gold provider to be able to provide end-to-end solutions Obviously, with being a gold provider, it also gives us access to the best commercials that you can get from Cisco. So we're very competitive when we go to market with our customers in that space. And further to that, though, there's a continued relationship we have with Cisco, where Cisco will push us. They will push us to innovate. They will help advise us on how they've seen other organizations make their services more valuable. Like, ultimately, we are a value-added reseller. Anyone can sell a switch. Right? So you've got to be able to wrap around that, become a trusted advisor for that customer. And we very much take an approach of that, of having a tri-party relationship. Softcat, Cisco, customer. Open, transparent relationship where we're clearly focusing on what the business challenges are. And I don't like just talking about challenges because I think that's a very negative view to look at IT. I like to look at it as, what's the outcome you're trying to achieve? What are the innovations that we can educate you on and we can explore together, which may provide some real value or a different way of doing things in your organization? Great example of that is things like 5G technology, connecting the previously unconnected. IoT starting to come into the world of many organizations. So Cisco are there to help guide us as much as we are there to sell their solutions. Some good examples of that, specifically pulling that back to the gold partner status part of this, or status, is Cisco powered services that we offer. So we have a managed network service, managed SD-WAN service. Going back to the 5G, we can do managed Meraki MGs, for example, which allows customers to, yes, go and deploy this new 5G technology, but also we can manage it all for them. And Cisco are a big partner in helping us develop those services in a meaningful way, that are providing this level of service that their customers expect, because they can give us that education as well as us just experiencing it with customers.
And here at Cisco Live, we are talking about and surrounded by so much cool technology. But as you said a moment ago, it's actually about adding value. And every tech project now is under close scrutiny for the kind of ROI that it may or may not deliver. So what impact have Cisco's collaboration tools had on your internal operations and overall employee experience? Is there any real measurable differences there?
Yeah. So let's tackle both of those, I guess, individually. Talking about the internal operations piece, I think having an ecosystem makes operations simpler, more efficient for our internal IT. But looking at what's happening with Softcat, it makes future change a lot easier. It makes the ability to scale much easier through things like just simple integrations. You look at Cisco Spaces and their UC solution, integration is just an API. Yeah. Like, it is so quick to do. When we look at typically setting up a new office, we have, and this is a good example with London, it's a big office. We have 5 to 6 months notice before we go live with that office. In order to set that office up in that amount of time, order the kit and get it going, that's not actually that long to get that going. We're moving offices in Manchester later this year, in actually September. I think we're meant to be moving into the office. We haven't ordered the kit yet. But that's because we've got confidence that we know that when we plug it in, it's going to work. We're going to pull the configuration down. Things should be relatively easy to set up. So the internal operations, yes, there's a lot of benefits there. Another thing that I hear from our internal IT team, so we've got 1,000 eyes across the estate as well. It's very much enabled them to move from being in a reactive state to issues to being proactive and looking to monitor and observe that network environment. The other thing that they found actually quite interesting is it gives them recommendations. So the longer it's in, the more data it gets. It will say, have you thought about changing this policy or this configuration or this switch to improve the user experience further? And you mentioned metrics. Meraki will give a health score as part of their dashboard. There's many more metrics than that, but that's a really simple one to look at and understand how is the network performing, what's the user experience roughly like, and kind of go from there really as in terms of an assurance score. Other things, just as an example for that internal operations piece, is in our offices we have screens throughout the offices and they'll have content on them, which might be about new product announcements. It could be about a company event that we're doing. Prior to putting the new network in, we were actually quite limited. So what we could do in that environment would be, we'd have a PC in each of the offices, and it would put the same piece of content on every screen across one office location. The challenge there is, how many stakeholders have you got in an office? You've got a range of them. You've got marketing, you've got sales, you've got technical people. So again, as part of the new implementation, we actually moved to a solution called AppSpace, which partly because it has a really tight integration with Cisco WebEx and the Cisco UC environment. And what that enabled us to do was actually look at it and go, right, we're going to put on this screen, which is where our technical and services people sit, this is the content we're going to put on there. Within our meeting rooms, this is the content we're going to put on there, and maybe customize that for when a customer's coming into that meeting room. So it allowed us to become more granular, more bespoke, but with ease, because that integration story was so simple. The second part of your question, which was around user experience, the simple answer is user experience is improved. In order to quantify that, that's pretty hard. It's a qualitative feedback. But we hear that from people. We hear that from our staff when they're coming into the offices, that they're not raising tickets about issues with connecting devices into meeting rooms, for example. So yes, you do have some metrics around not as many tickets are getting raised to the support desk. But yeah, general happiness of people in the office seems to be the main way that we look at that. I think the benefit that we see on that is not just user experience, it's that they get to experience. They get to experience that technology. And historically, networking has been that thing in the background, right? It just kind of does its thing. With having things like screens in the offices where they can go and interact with it, and they're playing, right, to a certain degree, it really brings it to life for them. And it gives them and makes them feel credible that when customers come in and they're showing them around, come and have a look at this is really cool. And they have genuine excitement about showing them this technology.
And once you unlock that in them, next time they go to a concert venue or a sporting venue, they'll be looking for APs in the ceiling.
100%. Slot the AP. Yeah, love that.
And of course, you're going to walk away from Cisco Live, I suspect, inspired. You're going to see and hear so many cool things. So I don't know how much you can share at the moment, right in the heart of the show floor, but how are you planning to scale your model of innovation and operational efficiency across other locations and your broader client base too, of course?
So Softcat are on a growth journey, as I mentioned. We are now sitting at about 10 offices across the UK and I. We've got an office in Arlington, which actually we've just put the same kit in that we've just put in the London office. We've got a Manchester office move that's happening. We're looking at new locations across EMEA as well. So new offices and office moves, that's taking up a lot of our internal IT time at the moment. We get, as I said, about 5 or 6 months notice to when an office is going to open. So we have to move at pace. Further to that, when we look at what we've done so far, we've got DNA spaces in. We're starting to get some analytics from that. The next question is, okay, we've got the solution in. How can we drive more value out of that? And again, selfishly as a technologist, how can I get customers more excited about technology and our internal staff more excited? So what we're going to be looking to do is get wayfinding fully deployed across that office so that people can not just see a map and see where things are, but they can get navigation to where things are in the office and kind of have a play with it that way, which I think is quite cool. I think the EBC piece, that's going to be really exciting to see how that develops, whether we utilize what's there today or we decide to get a dedicated EBC space where people can get really hands-on with different types of technology and we can use that in different ways. I think that's really exciting. Other innovations that are coming, as I mentioned earlier, we've done Wi-Fi 6E to date. We are now going Wi-Fi 7 as standard moving forwards in all of those new offices. And at the moment, one thing that I think we're waiting on, so we've got a Meraki wireless network in the new offices, and we go for Cisco switching. We've also got SD-WAN in place, but we haven't got everything in managed mode into the Meraki dashboard yet. There is a point at the moment where we have everything reporting into a centralized dashboard, so all of our wireless reports into it, and so do all of the switches from Cisco. What we want to do is get to a point where all of those Cisco switches come into the Meraki dashboard, but in managed mode. We want to fully manage those switches. And there are some limitations around that. I think at the point of original implementation, Meraki might not have supported BGP going into there. And we also use VRFs for segmentation across the environment. So that was also another limitation with Meraki. However, it's working really well today. And I think, again, when we were looking at the new offices and what we want to do with it, the technology roadmap is there. Cisco are not shy about talking about that with us. So that gave us a lot of confidence to kind of go down that route. Probably one more thing that I'll touch on in terms of innovations and what's exciting that's coming. We've definitely got a long-term goal to take the analytics that we can get from the network and those sensors and look to do more automations with them, removing the human from the equation. That can be anything from BMS systems, automating how the aircon works, not only to provide a better environment in those rooms and in the offices, but also to be more sustainable and more controlled with how much energy we're using in that environment. It can also be as simple, and I love simple things that make big differences, automated blind control in meeting rooms. So yeah, I think there's a whole world of automation we can look at. We're at the precipice now where we're starting to get some of that data in so that we can start to make some really intelligent decisions, and how we can start to automate our world within our offices.
Incredibly cool. There's an old saying, isn't there, that the last best experience we have anywhere becomes the standard expectation for what we expect everywhere. I was recently in a hotel in Vegas, and they've got Amazon Echoes in every room, and you can just say, Alexa, open the drapes, and that's become my standard expectation now for hotel rooms.
Yeah, we talk to some of our customers who live in that world as well. IoT is becoming a massive thing for that industry. The idea that you can fully customize an experience. Yeah. So say if you're a returning customer, knowing what temperature you like the room to be at, how bright do you like the lighting to be? Yeah, it's insane. It's really, really starting to change the world.
Well, at the end of our interview, I'm going to check out the show floor, see how many solutions are down there, and surround myself with innovation. If I get any downtime, I'm also going to check out the US Midway aircraft carrier. I don't know if you've seen that.
That looks amazing. There's another two as well across the river even.
So what are you looking forward to spending your time this week?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's hearing all the new announcements. First of all, Cisco Live in the US, compared to probably some of the other Cisco Lives, they are known to announce bigger things at the Cisco US event. It's the biggest event they do in the year. So certainly looking forward to seeing that. Second thing for me, I talked about we're on a journey of expansion at the moment. I think quite aggressive expansion. Forming relationships with our US versions of who we've got in the UK for Cisco is crucial for me on this trip. I want to build those relationships. I also want to get advice and guidance on the best way to approach this market. What are the technologies that we should be focusing on first? What industries should we be focusing on first? You talked before about what does it mean to be a gold partner. It is going into this new market as a partnership. It is not that Softcat is sailing a single ship out there. We need to go out there. What's the name for a group of ships? There's a fleet. We need to go into it as a fleet of ships, both with us and our key vendors around it. And that's the kind of third point, really. It's understanding those Cisco relationships. It's understanding the latest and greatest technologies, how I can translate back into our organization what that is, and also our customers. But also it's that wider ecosystem. I'm a great believer that, again, part of our value is to provide end-to-end solutions. A lot of that is multi-vendor solutions, and the vendors that Cisco have got here, they're here because Cisco work with them. They partner with them. They trust them. They have those relationships. So they act as a great bridge for us to not only connect with the US counterparts that we need to at Cisco, but also the US counterparts at those key vendors that they work with to really start to build out that portfolio and offering to the market.
And for anyone listening that you may have inspired or set off a few light bulb moments today, where would you like to point them to find out more information?
Yeah, sure, thank you. So www.softcat.com. We have tons of information on there. We quite regularly put out blog posts, new news posts, case studies, and also the 5 tech towers that we work with. You can find loads of information about them on there. Feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. So just Thomas Rowley on LinkedIn. You'll find me, connect. Generally, I reply to messages. So if you do message me, I'll try my best to come back to you. And then probably just 2 other things. One, like your podcast, I'm going to do a little plug. We also have a podcast. So it's called the Explain It podcast. The whole idea of it is taking complex technology and making it simple to understand. Whether you're talking about something like private 5G, how does networking work for AI, unboxing observability and what that actually means versus monitoring. We cover a real range of subjects on there, both with my team, the chief technologists, and also some of brilliant speakers from some of our key partners. So yeah, those channels are great. Like we do usually, we also run in-person events, virtual events, webinars, so you can catch us on there. But yeah, I'm happy to connect with anyone who would like to. Awesome.
Well, I'll add links to everything you mentioned. I'll also include an embed code as well for your podcast, so please go check that out. But more than anything, just thank you for stopping by today.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I think speaking with my guest today made it clear Softcat isn't just modernising infrastructure, It's actually redefining the experience of work itself. From deploying Meraki sensors to monitor CO2 levels to implementing collaboration tools that just work. It was refreshing for me to hear a digital transformation story that is deeply rooted in solving real-world challenges with smart and connected solutions. And also, I think Cisco's One Cisco approach didn't just provide the tools, it helped inspire Softcat's own demo, its own innovation hubs, allowing customers to see, touch, and trust the tech in action. So for any business leader wondering how to drive genuine change in the workplace, while also supporting things like sustainability and employee engagement, I think Softcat's journey offers a clear, practical roadmap. But what part of your workplace is ready for a level of transformation like this? Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, just @Neil C. Hughes. I'd love to carry this conversation on with you. So keep those messages coming in, and I'm going to try and find another guest now. I'll speak with you all again soon. Bye for now.